Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. It's time to take a look at the Friday race of the day out at Oaklawn Park. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer, producer Bobby behind the scenes there. Mike, this was a solid field, kind of an interesting race to handicap too. Stakes quality field. I think we have graded stakes winners from the inside, a couple of them, multiple stakes winner, chasing time. I bet this horse in the 2022 Rebel, who was only 5-1 that day. But not a lot of these horses are in their best form right now. They're either maybe a little bit past their prime, getting a little bit older, father time kind of catching up with them. But they kind of meet a horse like Glengarry, who's sort of the new up and coming, more lightly raced horse with some upside.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, you got listen. It's a 6-horse field. 5 of them are stakes winners already. A couple of graded stakes winners in the field. Also, I think you're right, Gino. Especially the horses in the inside 2 posts, they're good enough to win here. It feels like they're both kind of tailing off right at this point. We'll see if they can sort of turn things around here. If they can't, really good spot for Glengarry, who is the up and comer in this division.
And then what makes it kind of a little more intriguing too in a small field, as we look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, things can be a little bit different in the smaller fields where you feel like you might have to go a little bit earlier. Some horses want to put a little more pressure on. Glengarry, probably the most naturally quick, but certainly a horse like Sir Wellington has shown a lot of speed throughout his career. I mean, Rivet is very, very fast. Even a horse like Durante used to be really quick and getting the inside draw. If they wanted to maybe try something different and maybe stay out of some trouble, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them try to get a little aggressive. So I could see things just going a lot of different ways in here.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what makes this pace really hard to project. And I'm not sure how it's going to play out because you're right. Rivet is plenty fast enough if he can still run to be up there and not only just be part of the pace, to make the lead from Glengarry, I think. And you're 100% correct about Durante too. I mean, this horse has speed. He hasn't shown it recently. We'll see how aggressive they get from the route.
Yep. Well, and let's meet the field, starting with Durante here, who's a grade 3 winner, but hasn't been in that best of form overall late. I think just one for the last 10. He's coming into this off a couple-month break. He did have some trouble last time out in that stakes race at Oaklawn Park. He was third. He was down on the inside just behind the leaders. He had to kind of wait, and then he got shuffled back to last, and he just couldn't come on again after he tried to move to the outside. So he did have some trouble there, and if you're just playing him off of speed figures, that was one of his better speed figures in a while, even in defeat, finishing 5th in there. So, I mean, he's a tricky read. He's one of those horses, if he gets completely dismissed and people are cold on him and all of a sudden he's double his price and he's like 8 or 10-1, that's probably too high in a field like this. But at what his morning line is in that 4 to 5 to 1-ish range, is probably shorter than I'd want to play him, Mike.
Yeah, we'll see if he can just get back to. I mean, this horse, I remember when he arrived in New York, I think it was 2 summers ago now, this horse was razor sharp for Jacobson. He was using his speed then too, Gino. I think he was a photo away from winning 6 in a row when he got to the East Coast. He was just razor sharp, one good performance after another. He's tailed off since then. His form hasn't really held up. He didn't have a great 2024, and we'll just see if he can sort of bounce back. This is I know it on paper, I guess it's a step back into an allowance race, but this field is even tougher than the one he was just in, maybe.
Rivet, grade 3 winner, second start back after a 6-month break. He had a slow start, kind of a step slow, and then he had to rush up in between horses. He was second. He was up the challenge, the 2 path. It just wasn't the easiest of trips, and he's a speed horse. He probably needs a better break and probably a race under the belt. I mean, he certainly likes Oaklawn. He's a 4-time winner here, and his A game, his ceiling, I mean, he's capable of throwing up like a 99 Beyer speed figure. He's just 0 for the last 6, and now he's getting a little bit older. And once you start stringing a few races like that together where you're 8th and 5th and 7th, it's tough to make excuses for that many in a row.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he's a stakes horse anymore. And at one point he was, and he's not anymore. And I feel like that's probably the way Jacobs or Asmussen feels about him these days too. If I'm being honest, I hate to see that Asmussen even tried to make him a turf horse last summer. To me, that's a really bad sign for Rivet. I think even Asmussen knows that he's just not quite as good as he used to be. You can be lenient off the layoff last time, tried to use his speed. That was a super strong allowance race, just like this one. That one was a really, really tough field, and he just could not go.
Glengarry is lightly raced in here. He's a newly turned 4-year-old, and in his 7 starts, he's been in the exacta in 6 of them. He has one race that's the clunker, but he was down on the inside of legitimate other speed horses, and it was his first start in, I think, 7 months. So you could probably make an excuse for that. Everything else is pretty good, and he had a nice bounce back effort last time out when he finished second behind a horse named Henro, who is, I think, a multiple stakes winner and a pretty good horse coming from off the pace. He'll go third start of the form cycle. He's the horse that's kind of on the upswing, while most of these horses are kind of on the downswing. So they'll meet here, Mike. My only worry about him is he seemed pretty one-dimensional. He sat a little bit. He's not a horse that's going to want to come from off the pace. And I think if there's one or two of these other horses that get aggressive in here, I'm just trying to map out his trip. That's my only concern for him. And I actually picked him on top, and I rarely do this, and like not being able to kind of envision the trip as much for him, just kind of liking him more as the upside horse in this race, kind of moving in the right direction, while the rest of them might be a little bit beyond their best.
Yeah, that's how you should look at him, though. You should be trying to poke holes in this horse because he's the 2-1 morning line favorite.
Absolutely.
And he's facing a pretty tough field here. Listen, he's got things going for him, obviously. He's really lightly raced, and he has talent, and maybe he is just catching a bunch of these horses at the right time when they're just not in peak form. That being said, I mean, I look at this horse, and I kind of feel like, listen, he's got the big win at Keeneland to Lafayette last April, which, I just am struggling to give him a bunch of too much credit for that 94 buyer. They just let this horse get absolutely loose on the lead in there. He went unchallenged and he made it stand up. And so I really, if I'm being honest, I wasn't buying him off of that performance. He came back. He was in a tough spot in November off the layoff. So I'm not going to be too hard on him for that one. I don't know, man. Did he really run great last time? I expected it. Maybe it was the wet track. I expected him to really move forward last time, and I'm not sure that he did that.
Sir Wellington is a multiple stakes winner, and I mean, he's capable of big races. He got 100 buyer speed figure just 3 starts back. Hasn't raced though since July, so 7 months off. And you look, the one for the last 10, and then that one win was the 100 buyer. So he's kind of like one of those in and out horses too. He does have speed. He can sit off a little bit, Mike. He did legitimately hop a little bit at the start last time out. But in a race like this last year, he was actually 4th behind Rivet and Chasing Time almost a year ago exactly. So I was kind of hemming and hawing a little bit with him. What do you think about Sir Wellington?
Yeah, I mean, at least, he's got the one race, that effort 3 back, that would give him a real chance in here. My problem with him is I just don't think I would like him off of any of his other races, and there are a lot of them. It's not like this horse has a ton of upside. We kind of know what he is at this point. I'm not expecting him to pop another triple-digit buyer, and I don't think he's beaten this field if he just shows up and runs his typical race.
These outside 2 horses I really liked at one point. Run Classic, stakes winner, grade 3 place. Felt like a horse who was really good cutting back from the Louisiana Derby and into races. I thought around a mile or a 1 turn he was going to be really sharp. And he's just kind of a couple low graded stakes company. It was 0 for the last 5. I mean, we saw this horse run in the Golden Shaheen. Since then, he hasn't been into the winner's circle. Came off of a 3rd place finish last time out. The top 2 came back to win. So the race has come back live. 2 starts back, he lost to a nice horse who's a stakes horse, that winner at Delta Downs. So, I mean, he feels like one of the horses you can see getting the nice trip off the pace. He needs 1 or 2 of them to at least go put some pressure on the 3. But if they do, I think he's the one that benefits most.
Me too. And I'm not done with this horse yet. I realize that his, the last 3 starts, you could argue, aren't the best for this horse. And so maybe he's got a little something to find here. I don't care about the race 2 starts back, Gino. A muddy track on the bull ring going a mile at Delta Downs. I don't care about that race. They turned them back last time. I would argue, first of all, that was a super strong, even stronger allowance race than this one. The winner of that race is in raging form for Jacobson. Tectonic Twist is a multiple graded stakes winner. This horse is a good 4, 5 wide all the way around the track. You go back and watch the replay of that race. He never is near the rail. Vanishing, perfect, in, out from in behind the lead. Tejano Twist stays in around the turn, comes in, out through the strike. They both got to save a ton of ground and then outkick this horse while he's just 4 or 5 wide around the turn. I think he ran a lot better than it looks last time.
Yeah, it feels maybe like the class of the field, honestly. I think if they were to all show up maybe with their best efforts and get the trips they needed, he's probably the most likely winner. I think I haven't picked underneath spots, but the key for me with him is price too. Like if he's in that 3 to 1-ish range, it's probably very fair in here for a horse who has some of the better races. Chasing Time on the outside, 0 for the last 8. I joked he was a horse I bet in the Rebel back in 2022. That will coming up soon at Oaklawn Park, the next prep race. He was only 5 to 1 in that race, but going through his form overall, he's gotten some wins and sort of like some soft spots, gotten some soft trips. Like, I just don't know how good he is, honestly.
Yeah, I respect that he just kind of shows up every single time, but I'm with you. It feels like, it felt like turning back was really going to do the trick for him, and he was going to be, a quality sprinter. Not really sure that ever happened for him. He shows up, he holds his own, he's pretty good. I feel like races like this might be a little tough for him.
Friday race of the day gets you free past performances at DRF.com. Let's take a look at selections for this one, Mike. A really intriguing six-pack here. You're going to go with Run Classic on top.
Yeah, I'm just going to give him one more chance. I did not like the Tripper ride that he got last time. I want to give him another chance.
Yeah, Glengarry just feels like the lightly raced horse with some upside. Didn't think a horse worth betting, though, at that price. I think your horse Run Classic on top might be the bet. Like I said, if he is in that morning line or just above, hoping he gets a little bit of a trip. Maybe you could get some value with Sir Wellington kind of falling into a nice trip because he has that speed, but he can also sit just behind. So however you're playing him on Friday in the race of the day, we wish you the best of luck.